They have recently raised the issue of nuclear terrorism as part of their efforts to maintain and upgrade their nuclear arsenals on one hand and divert world public opinion from the issue of disarmament and direct them toward phony matters on the other hand. Arming terrorists with nuclear weapons are only conceivable by those states which possess such weapons and have used them, and also have a long record of supporting terrorists. In its NPR, the United States has kept silent about a nuclear strike against nuclear weapon states in order to concentrate the propaganda pressure on certain independent nations. This is while major terrorist networks are supported by the United States intelligence agencies and the Zionist regime. Credible evidence is available in this connection that will be publicized, if needed, during the forthcoming conference on the global fight against terrorism in Tehran. In the NPR, it is noted that the United States will not develop new nuclear weapons, but they will continue to improve them qualitatively. The qualitative improvement of nuclear weapons is tantamount to the increase in lethality and destructive power of such weapons, which is a vertical proliferation. In addition, its stated policies are non-verifiable because there is no supervision by any independent authoritative body on the nuclear programs of the United States and its allies. By comparing the Washington Nuclear Security Summit with the Tehran Nuclear Disarmament and Non-Proliferation Conference, the efforts of the host of the former in Washington were aimed at preserving monopoly over discussions on nuclear weapons and to preserve their superiority on other countries, while in the latter conference in Tehran, all the participants sought was a world free from nuclear weapons. The motto of the Tehran conference was nuclear energy for all, nuclear weapons for none. Mr. President, distinguished delegates, to realize the humane aspiration to disarm the world from nuclear weapons, to engage in non-proliferation and promote peaceful use of nuclear energy, I would like to offer the following proposals. 1. Review of the achievements of the NPT. The NPT should lead to the Nuclear Disarmament and Non-Proliferation Treaty, DNPT, and nuclear disarmament must be put at the core of its mandate through transparent, binding, and effective mechanisms supported by solid international guarantees. 2. The establishment of an independent international group with full authority from the conference to prepare a set of guidelines to operationalize the provisions of Article 6 of the NPT, including planning and fully supervising nuclear disarmament and preventing proliferation. The group should conduct its work with the effective participation of all independent countries by setting a deadline for complete elimination of all nuclear weapons within a specified timetable. So in other words, all these nuclear weapons should be eliminated within that timetable. 3. The introduction of legally binding comprehensive security guarantees without discrimination or preconditions until the achievement of full nuclear disarmament by nuclear weapon states. 4. The immediate termination of all types of research, development, or improvement of nuclear weapons and their related facilities, as well as the introduction of a verification mechanism by the above-mentioned group. 5. The adoption of a legally binding instrument on the full prohibition of production, stockpiling, improvement, proliferation, maintaining, and use of nuclear weapons. 6. The suspension of membership in the Board of Governors of the IAEA for those states which use or threaten to use nuclear weapons. The presence and political influence of these states has so far prevented the IAEA from performing its mandates, particularly with regard to Articles 4 and 6 of the treaty, and has caused the agency to deviate from conducting its authorized missions. In particular, how could the government of the United States be a member of the Board of Governors while it has not only used the nuclear bomb against Japan, but also used depleted uranium weaponaries in the Iraq War? 7. The cessation of all kinds of nuclear cooperation with non-member states of NPT and the adoption of effective punitive measures against all those states which continue their cooperation with such non-member states. 8. Considering any threat to use nuclear weapons or attack against peaceful nuclear facilities as a breach of international peace and security, and swift reaction from the United Nations through the termination of all cooperation of NPT member states with the threatening aggressor state. 9. Immediate and unconditional implementation of the resolution adopted by the 1995 Review Conference on the establishment of a nuclear-free zone in the Middle East. 10. Dismantling of nuclear weapons stationed in the military bases of the United States and its allies in other countries, including Germany, Italy, Japan, and the Netherlands. 11. Collective effort to reform the structure of the Security Council. The current structure of the Security Council is extremely unfair and inefficient, and mainly serves the interests of the nuclear weapon states. Reforming the structure of the Council, along with reviewing the achievement of the NPT, are interrelated and essential for the realization of the IAEA's objectives. Mr. President, dear friends, as the representative of a great and civilized nation, one which has contributed to human culture throughout history and has always been the heralder of the need to worship God, justice and peace in the world, I would like to announce that the Islamic Republic of Iran is ready to partake in the materialization of those proposals, as well as just plans on disarmament and non-proliferation and peaceful use of clean nuclear energies. I pronounce loudly that a nation which has bred great personalities such as Ferdowsi, Hafiz, Sanoi, Vahshi Baghi, Avicenna, Abu Rayhan, Shahriyar, and independent and freedom-seeking intellectuals and wise personalities such as Imam Khomeini, and bestowed them to humanity, a nation which has always called for love, compassion, and peace for mankind, a nation the poem of whose great poet Saadi is glaring in the United Nations, which says, quote, one of essence is the human race. Thusly has creation put the base. A nation which abolished slavery 2,500 years ago. I mean and speak of the great nation of Iran, is not one that needs nuclear bombs for its development and does not regard it as a source of its honor and dignity. The logic and will of the Iranian nation is a reflection of the logic and will of all nations. All nations love peace, brotherhood, and monotheism, and suffer from discrimination and injustice. Many of my colleagues, the heads of states, and many of sympathetic and justice-seeking dignitaries and commentators in their talks with me have shared this view that there is a dire need for global disarmament and the expansion of peaceful use of clean nuclear energy for all. By breaking the monopoly imposed in these fields, as was contained in the foregoing proposals. This is the heartfelt demand of all independent nations and states that nuclear energy for everyone, nuclear weapon for no one. Accordingly,